13 verses. Thera. Sona-Kolivisa. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Sona-Kolivisa. He got rebirth, in the lifetime of our Exalted One, at the city of Kampa, in the family of a distinguished counselor. From the time when his birth was expected, his father's great wealth increased even more, and on his birthday the whole town kept festival. Now because of his generosity in a previous birth to a silent Buddha, his body was as fine gold and most delicately soft, for that reason he was named so. On the soles of his feet and the palms of his hand grew fine down of golden color, and he was reared in luxury, in 3 mansions suited to each of the 3 seasons. Now when our Lord had attained omniscience and begun rolling the wheel of the path, and was staying at Rajagaha, King Bimbisara sent for So. He, having arrived with a great company of fellow townsmen, heard the Lord teach the path, and, winning faith, obtained his parents' consent to enter the monk's order. He received a subject of study from the Lord, but was unable to concentrate, owing to his maintaining interaction with people while he stayed in cold woodland. And he thought, "My body is too delicately reared to arrive happily at happiness. A monk's duties involve bodily fatigues." So he disregarded the painful sores on his feet got from pacing up and down, and strove his utmost, but was unable to win. And he thought, "I am not able to create either path or fruit. Of what use is the religious life to me? I will go back to lower things and work merit." Then the Lord discerned, and saved him by the lesson on the parable of the lute, showing him how to temper energy with calm. Thus corrected, he went to Vulture's Peak, and in due course won arahantship. Reflecting on his achievement, he thus declared his Anna, who once in Anga's realm was passing rich, a squire to Anga's king, lo! He today is of fair wealth in spiritual things. Yes, past all sorrow has so won his way. 5 cut you off. 5 leave behind, and 5 beyond these cultivate. He who the 5-fold bond transcends, a monk flood-crossed is he called. You see a monk with a rush-like mind, stuck up and empty, trifler, keen to taste external things? Never will he attain fullness of growth within the moral code, in mental training, or in insight's grasp. For such neglect that which they have to do, but what should not be done they bring to pass. In these conceited, desultory minds grow the rank weeds of the intoxicants, in whom the constant governance of sense is well and earnestly begun. The things that should be left undone they practice not. Ever what should be done they bring to pass. For them who live mindful and self-possessed, the intoxicants decline utterly away. In the straight path, the path that is declared. See that you walk, nor turn to right or left. Let each himself address and incite. Let each himself unto nibbana bring. When overtaxed and strained my energies, the Lord, can the world reveal his peer? Made me the parable about the lute. And thus the man who sees taught me the path. And I who heard his blessed word, glad only and always to do his will. Calm I evolved and practiced, equipoise, that so to highest good I might attain. And now the 3-fold wisdom have I won. And all the Buddha's ordinance is done. He who has compassed yielding up the world, and has attained detachment of the mind, who has achieved conquest of enmity, and grasping rooted out that brings birth and death of craving has attained and all that did bewilder and obscure the mind, and of sensations marked the genesis. His heart is set at perfect liberty. For such a monk rightly freed, whose heart has peace, there is no mounting up of deeds, nor yet remains aught for him to do. Like to a rock that is a monolith, and trembles never in the windy blast, so all the world of sights and tastes and sounds, odors and tangibles, yes, things desired and undesirable can never excite a man like him. His mind stands firm, detached, and of all that he notes the passing hence. Chapter 14. 14 verses. Thera. Revata. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Revata. This Thera's verse has already been recorded in the first chapter, where is incorporated the teaching to his sister's sons to be mindful. Here are incorporated the verses he published during his life in the monk's order. This is the point of them. When he had one arahantship, he went from time to time with the great Theras, Sariputta and the rest, to visit the Lord, and after staying for a while, returned to the acacia wood, living in the bliss of fruition one and in the sublime moods. And thus he continued till he was an aged man. Going thus one day to visit the Buddha, he stayed not far from Savatthi in a forest. Now the police came round on the track of thieves. The thieves running by the Thera dropped their booty near him and ran. And the police, running up, arrested the Thera, dragged him before the king, and said, "This, Lord, is the thief." The king had him released, and asked him, "Has your reverence committed this robbery or not?" Then the Thera, who had never from his birth done anything of the sort, taught the path, by way of showing his incapacity for such an act, in these verses. Since I went forth from home to homeless life, never have I harbored conscious wish or plan, unarian or linked with enmity. Never mind the quest, all this long interval. Let's cut down our fellow creatures, let us kill. Let them be brought to pain and misery. No, love I do avow, made infinite. Well trained, by orderly progression grown. Even as by the Buddha it is taught. With all am I a friend, comrade to all. And to all creatures kind and merciful. A heart of compassion I cultivate. And ever in goodwill is my delight. A heart that cannot drift or fluctuate. I make my joy. The sentiments sublime, that evil men do shun I cultivate. Whosoever has won to stage of ecstasy beyond attention's range of ever-changing sensual desires, he, follower of the enlightened One Supreme, to Aryan silence straightway did attain. Even as a mountain crag unshaken stands, sure-based, a monk with illusions gone. Like very mountain stands unwavering, the man of blameless life, whoever seeks for what is pure, did deem some trifling fault, that is no heavier than the tip of hair, weighty as burden of the gravid cloud. Even as a border city guarded well, within, without, so guard you well yourselves. See that the moment pass not vainly by. With thought of death I become easy not, nor yet delight in living. I await the hour. Like any hireling who has done his task. With thought of death I become easy not, nor yet delight in living. I await the hour. With mind discerning and with full meditative attentiveness. The Lord has my loyalty and love. And all the Buddha's teaching has been done. Lo, have I laid the heavy load I was having. Cause for rebirth is found in me no more. The good for which I gave the world farewell, and left the home to lead the homeless life, that highest good have I accomplished. And every bond and chain is destroyed. Work out your good with zeal and earnestness. This is my last commandment unto you. For lo, now shall I wholly pass away. To me comes absolute enfranchisement. Thera. Godatta. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Godatta. Reborn in this Buddha age at Savatthi, in a family of caravan leaders, he was named Godatta. After his father's death he arranged his estate, and taking carts full of wares travelled about, maintaining himself by trading. One day an ox fell on the road while drawing its cart, and his men could not raise it, so he himself went and beat it severely. Then the ox, incensed at his ruthlessness, assumed a human voice and said, "Godatta, this long time have I unreservedly given my strength to draw your burdens, but today when I was unable and fell, you hurt me badly. Well then, wherever from now on you are reborn, may I be there as your enemy able to hurt you." Godatta was thrilled at hearing this, and thought, "What do I in this way of life who have thus hurt living things?" And he divested himself of all his property, and took orders under a certain great Thera, in due course attaining arahantship. Now one day as he was in the bliss of fruition, he discoursed to Aryan groups, both lay and religious, on worldly wisdom. Even as the mettled brute of noble breed, yoked to his load, drawing his load along, though worn by burden past his powers, unfair, breaks not away, revolting from his bonds. So they in whom, as water in the sea, wisdom abounds, despise not other men. This among creatures is the Aryan rule. Living in time, come beneath the power of time. Subject to dread concerning future life, men go their ways to pain and misery. Yes, here below the sons of men do mourn, elated by some pleasant happening and by sorrow depressed, the fools are overcome to and fro, who nothing as it really is can see. But they who can escape the weaver of nets, fell between pain and pleasure holding middle way, they stand as any pillar at the gate. Neither elated they, nor yet depressed. For not to gain or loss, to honor, fame, to praise or blame, to pleasure or to pain, wherever it be, do they take hold and cling. No more than drop of dew to lotus leaf. Hale and serene are winners everywhere, and everywhere unconquered bound to win. Of him who rightly seeks and nothing did gain, and him who gains but seeks wrongfully. Better is he who rightly sought and lost, than he who gained by methods that were wrong. Of them who have repute, but scanty dower of wit, and them who know, but lack repute. Better the wise men who do lack repute, than great repute and men of little wit. Of praises by the unintelligent, and blame and criticism by the wise. Better the criticism of the intelligent, than are the commendations of a fool. The pleasure born of sensuous desire, the pain that comes from life detached, austere. Better the pain that comes from life austere, than pleasure born of sensuous desire. To live by wrong, for doing right to die. Better it was thus to die than so to live. They who have put off sense desire and wrath, peace in their heart regarding life to come, they walk the world from lust and craving free. Likes and dislikes are not for such as these. The factors of enlightenment, the powers, these have they studied and the forces too. So winning perfect peace, as fires extinguished, they wholly pass away, sane and immune. Chapter 15. 16 verses. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Thera. Anna-Kondanna. Anna-Kondanna. Reborn before our exalted one, in the village of Donavathu, not far from Kapalavathu, in a very wealthy Brahmin family, he came to be called by his family name, Koat. When grown up he knew the 3 Vedas, and excelled in knowledge concerning marks. Now when our Bodhisattva was born, he was among the 8 Brahmins sent for to prognosticate. And though he was quite a novice, he saw the marks of the great man on the infant, and said, "Verily this one will be a Buddha." So he lived, awaiting the great being's renunciation. When this happened in the Bodhisattva's 29th year, Koa heard of it, and left the world with 4 other sons of mark interpreting Brahmins, Vapa and others, and for 6 years lived at Uravela, near the Bodhisattva, during the latter's great struggle. Then when the Bodhisattva ceased to fast, they were disgusted, and went to Isapatana. There the Buddha followed them, and preached his wheel sermon, by which Koat and myriads of Brahma won the fruition of the first path. And on the 5th day, through the sermon on no sign of any self, Koa realized arahantship. Him the Lord, later on, in conclave at the great Jita Grove Vihara, ranked chief among those bhikkhus who were of long standing in the monks' order. And on one occasion Koat's sermon on the 4 truths, a discourse carrying the impress of the 3 signs, dealing with non-substantiality, varied by many methods, based on nibbana, and delivered with the Buddha's own fluency, so impressed Sakka the god that he uttered this verse. Hearing your doctrine's mighty properties, lo, I by that am more than satisfied. Most passionless and pure the path thus taught, from every form of grasping wholly free. On another occasion the Thera, seeing how the minds of certain worldly people were mastered by wrong ideas, delivered himself on this wise. Many the motley pictures in the world, enjoyed within this earth's circumference. Inciting, I do note, man's purposes, fair-seeming hopes, and linked with fierce desire. As dust by wind upchurned the rain cloud lays, so are those purposes composed and quenched. When he by wisdom did discern and see. When he by wisdom did discern and see. Impermanent is everything in life. Then he at all this suffering feels disgust. Lo! In this lies the way to purity. When he by wisdom did discern and see that everything in life is bound to get sorrow, then he at all this suffering feels disgust. Lo! In this lies the way to purity. That everything in life is void of self. Then he at all this suffering feels disgust. Lo! In this lies the way to purity. Upon that he showed that he had himself attained this insight, confessing Anna, and saying, Monk Koat, awakened by the awakened one. Lo! He has passed with vigor out and on. Removed off has he the dyings and the births. Wholly accomplishing the life sublime. And be it flood or trap or stumbling stone, or be it mountain hard to split in two, the net, the stumbling stone I have hacked away. And split is the rock so hard to break. And crossed the flood. Wrapped in ecstatic thought, I live, from bondage unto evil freed. Now one day the Thera rebuked a bhikkhu, who had fallen into bad habits through unworthy friendships, and addressed him, saying, A bhikkhu of distraught, unsteady mind, who did associate with vicious friends, in the great flood of constant living falls, headlong and drowning sinks beneath its waves. But who, with concentrated, steady mind, discreet and self-restrained in heart and sense, did wisely join himself to virtuous friends, his it may be to put an end to sorrow. Lo! Here a man with worn and pallid frame, like knotted stems of cane his joints, and sharp, emaciated network of his veins, in food and drink austerely temperate, his spirit neither crushed nor desolate. In the great forest, in the mighty woods, touched though I be by gadfly and by gnat, I yet would roam, like warrior elephant, in van of battle, mindful, vigilant. With thought of death I become easy not, nor yet delight in living. I await the hour, like any hireling who has done his task. With thought of death I become easy not, nor yet delight in living. I await the hour, with mind discerning and with full meditative attentiveness. The Lord has my loyalty and love, and all the Buddha's teaching has been done. Lo, have I laid the heavy load I was having. Cause for rebirth is found in me no more. The good for which I gave the world farewell, and left the home to lead the homeless life, that highest good have I accomplished. What need have I as monk to live? Thera. Udayin. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Udayin. Reborn in this Buddha age at Kapilavatthu in a Brahmin family. He saw the power and majesty of the Buddha when he visited his family, believed in him, entered the monk's order, and in due course became an arahant. Now there are these three Theras named Udayin. The minister's son, Udayin, recorded above, this Brahmin, and Udayin the Great. This one. When the sutta of the elephant parable had been taught on the occasion when Sita, King Pasenadi's elephant, was publicly admired, was stirred to enthusiasm at thought of the Buddha, and thinking, these people admire a mere animal. Come now, I will proclaim the virtues of that great and wondrous elephant, the Buddha. He uttered these verses. Buddha the awakened one, the Son of Man. Self-tamed, by inward vision wrapped. Engrossed within himself by ways sublime. Glad in tranquility of heart. To whom men honor pay as one. Who has transcended all we know. To whom gods also honor yield. So I, an arahant, have heard. From jungle to nibbana come, with every bond left behind. Glad in renouncing worldly joys. extracted like fine gold from ore. Like elephant superb is he. On wooded heights in Himalaya. Lo, him see. Nāga superb for, sure, of all we Nāga name. Supremely true that name for him. This Nāga will I praise to you. For he no sin na agun did. Mercifulness, soberness. These be two of the Naga's feet. Intelligence and mindfulness. Other 2 feet of this elephant. The Naga's trunk is confidence. His white tusks, equanimity. His throat awareness, and his head is insight. Testing touch of trunk. Is weighing wisely good and bad. Shrine of the path his viscera. Detachment is the tail of him. So meditating rapt, and breathing bliss, composed in body and in mind. Composed, this Nāga, when he walks. Composed, this Nāga, when he stands. Composed, this Nāga, lying down. And hard-worked composed while he sits. Self-governed whatsoever he did. This is the Naga's perfect way. Blameless in all that he enjoys. Enjoying nothing that calls for blame. Has he but gotten food and gear? From store laid up he did refrain. Whether the tie be coarse or fine. Bonds of all kinds he breaks fast. He goes wheresoever he will. Nor cars wheresoever he goes. As lotus born within a lake. By water nowise is defiled. But grows fragrant, beautiful. So is the Buddha in this world. Born in the world and living there. But by the world nowise defiled. Even as the lily by the lake. A mighty fire that's spent itself. And has no fuel exhausts itself down. And of the smouldering ashes men do say that fire is now extinguished. Lo! Here's a parable the wise have taught to make their meaning known. Great Nagas, they will understand. The Nāga, by that Nāga taught. With passion gone, and hatred gone. And dullness gone, sane and immune. This Nāga, yielding up his life. Will clean go out, sane and immune.